Bad news, turmoils, adversity, they happen to you, they happen to me. They don't discriminate. It's tough to be always on top of your game. And when you're not on top of your game, you're overwhelmed. How do you deal with overwhelm in business and in life? Hi, this is Mariela from E-Cono-Me, Mastering Life and Business for a Better You and a Better Me. And today's subject is a very important subject, and it is how can we use our internal resources to cope with overwhelm? Now, overwhelm, it's so funny. The way it happens sometimes it's totally unexpected. So one morning you wake up and you think, wow, this is a beautiful morning. This is a beautiful day. Everything's going my way, except that everything doesn't go your way, and it doesn't always happen that way, because sometimes you get the odd phone call, sometimes you get, that nasty email, sometimes you get that piece of very bad news, and it just disrupts your day. It unsettles you, it blows you over, and then you're overwhelmed. Too much work, too much stuff to do at home, not good planning, overwhelm. And overwhelm is part of the life we're learning to live, especially with COVID. We're learning to live a new overwhelm. Those of you who are parents with children at home and having to deal with situations where you're balancing, you're juggling, it just really sometimes is a bit too much to take on. So, how are we going to keep, and how is it that some people manage to cope better than others? Why is it that some people manage to go through the same process, fall on the ground, pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and move on? Whereas others, could be me, could be you, sometimes one day is worse than another, but there are some people who live in permanent woe. Some people who seem to never pick themselves up. And you would know, even when you meet people like this, you actually anticipate them. You anticipate that they are the ones that you are going to have to pull up and help them move forward. So, what do we have that's already inside us that can help uh, our resources? How can we tap in on our resources to be able to have our coping system better in place? And today we're going to look at 5 different aspects of what's already inside us that can help us go better. First thing off, there is no one rule that fits all. There is a system that can help us cope better, but there is no one rule that one fits all. Sometimes we feel we are completely out of control. Sometimes there's overwhelm, adversity, worse, there's sadness, and it robs us of our happiness. It robs us out of the possibility of having a fulfilled life. So, how are we going to cope better? What are we missing out when we are not those people who pick ourselves up, brush ourselves off, and move forward? Here's my first observation of people who manage to rise above adversity consistently. And this is number 1. They anticipate drama. They anticipate the challenges, they anticipate the difficulties. Everyone is either dealing or has dealt with some major issues in life, issues that make you feel like you've really been kicked hard in your stomach, from dealing with a bad meeting that goes really wrong, to dealing with arguments in the family, arguments with your spouse, your partner, having a problem, that odd email which really, takes the wind out of your sails. It's not a question of whether this is going to happen to you. It's just a question of when. Because, like I said in the beginning, bad stuff is not discriminating with anyone. It happens to everyone. So, what is it that makes some people cope better? And as I said, the first thing is anticipating drama. Now, what is it about anticipating drama that makes someone cope better? So, anticipating drama means being prepared for the eventuality of something that's going to happen. So if you're a good CEO, you are going to anticipate that you have problems in HR. You will anticipate that COVID is going to bring loss in sales. You are going to anticipate that you are going to be facing challenges from other markets. So you prepare, you anticipate, you also curtail, and you have an action plan. You have your plan B. The problem is that most people, and especially with small businesses, and this is the ruin of many small businesses, is that they do not anticipate problems. They don't anticipate drama. In real life, we can also anticipate drama. If we know we have a difficult child, we need to anticipate the issues and problems that this child is going to have. If we have a difficult relationship, we know that something is going to trigger off a chain of reactions. It doesn't mean that we have to live through life anticipating the worst all the time. It's just being prepared and anticipating something that could go wrong and preparing our defense mechanism, our solution mechanism to kick in and deal with it better. So if you are part of a team and this is your time, you're going to pitch for a new idea that you've had, and they've given you the time of the day, so you're all pumped up, 1000% hyped, in good flow, you've rehearsed it, and you go in, you have it rehearsed in your head from beginning to end, and one of your team or one person who you're pitching for, because maybe you're pitching to a client, just goes, no, sorry, idea doesn't work. And it takes the wind out of your sails, and you feel disappointed, you feel deflated, and you feel overwhelmed. Why does that happen? It happened because you did not anticipate that someone would challenge your idea. It happens the same in life. If you're going through life, this is a lot more serious. If you're going through life with a partner and you're heading towards a breakup, if you are the person who is anticipating the breakup, who is provoking the breakup, not because there's anything right or wrong, it's because you've suddenly grown into different people, into different directions. Of course, this other person is going to be disappointed. Of course, this person is going to be hurt. Of course, this person is going to throw a lot of mud in your face. Of course, he's going to try to shift guilt. Of course, if you don't think that that's going to happen, you have not anticipated the drama. Whereas if you anticipate the drama, you deal ahead with it and you have a proper discussion. You discuss, you have conversation, you say you're unhappy and why you're unhappy, and you lead progressively towards the breakup of the relationship. There is no one fit all, like I said, in any situation. But this is the same with health. I mean, if you're my age and you're heading from 50 to 60 and you start feeling your body stiffening up, of course your body stiffs up from 50 to 60, especially if you've been sitting on your laurels for the past 10 years. You have to work much harder when you get to this age because your body is going to start failing you. It's not rocket science. It's actually gravity. So you have to anticipate the problems. You have to anticipate the drama. You have to ask yourself, and this is really important, what could take the wind out of my sails? What could trip up my day? If you know that someone is not well, you can always ask, what is it that I can do to improve the situation, to make it easier? So actually anticipating the drama is one very effective way of dealing with a situation. Number 2, and the second big idea I have for you today, is you have to delay your emotional response. You have to delay your response. You have to learn how not to freak out in a situation. You have to put it in perspective. When something happens that you don't anticipate, the first one, you should not anticipate that it's the end of the world either, because the end of the world is very final, and it will happen one day. But if you keep thinking it's going to happen tomorrow, then you're already past dead, right? There is one thing I've learned from, being an entrepreneur for the past 35 years. And when I was younger, I used to, be in corners that I would be overwhelmed totally, to the point that I couldn't think further on how I'm going to deal with the situation. Time and experience taught me that whenever I was in this corner, like this corner here, and I couldn't get out of it, when I looked back at the problem a week later, or a month later, or a year later, one of three things happened. I would either smile, I would either know how to cope better, or I wouldn't even remember it. And that is really putting it in perspective. Whenever you're in a situation that you feel you can't cope with, you do one of the things. You either think, what is this problem going to look like in a year's time, or in a week's time, or in a month's time, depending on how big the situation is, or you get help. You have to remember that there is definitely one other person, at least one other person, that you know in this life, in this world, that has gone through this already. And that his wisdom from actually experiencing the same thing will give you the results you need to do to tackle it. And when it's a problem that you absolutely cannot solve, then let the universe solve it, because there's always a way in which the universe will contrive to solve a problem that is unsolvable, right? The next other thing is, please don't lose too much energy and too much passion on something that is relatively unimportant. Now, I know about this because I have been the biggest culprit of falling into this trap. I fell into this trap time and again, where I am managing big businesses and getting involved in petty stuff that I shouldn't be messing my hands into. If I'm going to get my hands dirty, it better be the big stuff. So I am known by my staff in my businesses that I am the most pragmatic person. I will look at the situation, I will evaluate, I will think about it, and I will make a quick decision. I will not procrastinate, I make a decision. But on the other hand, I would also fret a lot over little small things. And this, I hope, is really now a thing of my past. So I have furniture stores, I'd go into one of my stores, and instead of seeing the bigger picture, that everything is properly coded, properly color coded, there's everything working in a flow, I would see dust on a shelf and I would throw a tantrum. And my staff started resenting and worrying every time I'd go and do a store inspection. And instead of having them excited about the anticipation that I would go and remark on how well the place is looking, how good the place is looking, how the concept is being translated properly, I would fret over the dust. Now, this is just an example to put the perspective of the problem in its proper place. Of course, dust is not fine on a shelf when you are walking through a furniture store, but it's not the be-all and end-all. There is someone else that I could just pick up the phone and say, when I was doing the walkthrough, that particular area is not up to scratch. But if I would deal with it when I'm doing my walkthrough as a senior manager, as the owner of my business, and I would go, why is this shelf not right? Then I was losing my perspective. And I hope this gives you an idea of what I mean by delaying your emotional response. The best leaders on earth have been able to always, you watch how silent the Dalai Lama is. He's not a man who doesn't have ideas. He's not a man who doesn't see the world as a better place and expect more of it. Of course, he is that and much more. When faced with a problem, he stops, he thinks, he asks, he meditates. He does a delayed response. And eventually, his delayed response is the response that the person in front of him gets the solution he is looking for. So, delaying our emotional response, not freaking out, having a role model when we need one, because there is always someone who has experienced the same thing ahead of us, are all solutions to help us cope better and improve our mechanism of coping with overwhelm. The other important thing before I move on to the next point, the third point, is that when you have delayed response, you actually have to remember time. And time is on your clock. Do not be hastened to make a decision when someone is pushing you to make it. Time is on your clock. It's your advantage, your responsibility. Don't be pushed in fast responses. Delay your response time, because you will come up with a better response and action to your game plan. Right? Number 3, the third big idea. The third big idea is learning how to allow and socialize your sadness. What do I mean by this? You can't apologize or hide sadness. If something really life breaking has happened to you, you have to embrace your sadness. And you also need time to digest your sadness. So it's okay to have downtime. It's really okay to have downtime. If you're mourning, you need uh, a proper time to mourn depending on who has left your life. If you and you keep it all in perspective, so like that's the unthinkable, the first, it's like the top grade. Your health next, your relationship after, moving house after that. There is a progression. Work becomes something else, family life becomes something else. As you go down the ladder, it becomes the norm. So it's okay, even at work, if you really like, you need to catch up your breath, you need to strengthen your resources. It's okay to tell someone, look, I'm really not well. I need one day to recruit my resources, put them together again, and I will feel better. The point is, a lot of us don't actually embrace this. We just say, I'm calling in sick. It's okay to have one sick day. It's not okay to have one sick week. It's not okay to have 1 month sick. That's unhealthy. Like the previous one, we have to keep our sadness in perspective. But it's okay to lick your wounds. It's okay to fix yourself. Because when you acknowledge your sadness, I know it sounds arbitrary, but you're actually strengthening yourself. And once you acknowledge your sadness, you're going to socialize it. And what do I mean by socializing it? You are going to find the right person and tell him about your problem, tell him about your sadness. Don't expect good advice, because what most people will do when you actually bring your sadness, your overwhelm, your problem, your adversity to them, they're going to try to find a solution. That's not the point of this exercise. The point of this exercise is the fact that you've actually shared it with someone means that you are acknowledging it and that you are embracing it, that you know you have a problem, and you will start finding ways of dealing better with it. So the reaction is not important. The the scope here is for you to actually share the sadness. Ideally, you share it with someone who can give you sound advice, because like I've already said, there is no problem that hasn't already been dealt with, but sometimes finding the right person to share it with and get advice and get the shortcut to resolving the problem is not always going to be feasible in, the immediate present. So this is really important. Learn to embrace your sadness, learn to acknowledge it, and eventually learn to share it. Number 4, a healthy response. Delay the response that is unhealthy. I know that these all sound like they are related to each other, but actually they're not. You cannot go like number 2 saying, oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world, and therefore your response suddenly becomes, I'm going to hit a bottle, or I'm going to numb. We all do numbing in our own way. We all have a coping mechanism that is inherent to each and every one of us. Some people hit the bottle, some people clean their closet, some people listen to music, some people binge on Netflix, whatever it is. We all have a numbing system, a coping system, which again, like acknowledging your sadness, is fine for a relatively short amount of time until we fix ourselves and acknowledge that we actually have a problem, we have overwhelm, we have anxiety, whatever it is that we are dealing with. But from then on, we need to have a healthy response. And, we need to actually take ourselves a little bit outside our comfort zone after we have acknowledged the pain, after we have started healing ourselves. And instead of doing the busy stuff that keeps us occupied but actually doesn't contribute to fixing our problem and taking us to the next level, it will, really take us out of our comfort zone and move forward. In terms of business, this happens a lot. A lot of people who feel overwhelmed, what they start doing, especially overachievers, overperformers, what they start doing is working a lot more. Because by working more, you think you are, reaching your targets a lot more, doing stuff by removing the piles that have been piling for a long time. But actually what you're doing is depriving yourself of your health. You are depriving yourself of sleep, which means you're depriving yourself of focus. And when you do these things in succession, one right after the other, your performance is going to really drop. So give yourself time to do the things that are not the busy work, but that is just a little bit going to take you outside your comfort zone, but dealing with your problems a little bit more in target, a little bit more head on, even if it takes you outside your comfort zone. And when you go just outside your comfort zone, not going into your danger zone, but going just outside your comfort zone, you're going to find that you are going to broaden your horizons, expand your horizons. And now for the 5th idea. And the 5th idea is something that each and every one of you can absolutely do, hands down, no problem. And this is your journal and review. I am huge about journaling now, a lot more than ever. And I am huge on journaling for a very simple reason, that I have taken on my own mentors and they have shown me that this actually really works. I used to think it's such a waste of time, but journal and review are really important. And I'm going to ask you to journal and review your 3 Gs. G number 1 is your gratitude. So you do this first thing in the morning. You don't do this at the end of the day. You do this first thing in the morning. Number 1 G is your gratitude. Now, this is my journal. I've been holding this, and this is to prove to you how, I've written volumes and pages. But you don't need to write volumes on pages, you just need to write bullet points. And the first thing you need to journal is your gratitude. Your gratitude is the stuff that you take for granted. A plate ready at table. Actually waking up and breathing and hearing and listening. Waking up is gratitude. There is so much we should be grateful for. Those of us who have a roof over our head, we take it for granted, but for 70% of the world, this could not be the case. We have so much to be grateful for. And when we actually start journaling our gratitude, it will come in like a rush. And the more you think about it, the more stuff you will find that you are grateful for. So number one, you journal your gratitude. Number two, you journal your goals. Now, when you're overwhelmed, the chances that you see your goals from the 30-foot perspective are very, very, very small. If you start looking at your 10-year plan, it's like non-existent. But if you start looking at the 1-foot view, if you start thinking, what is it that I really need to get done today? What is it that I need to get done by the end of this week? And you actually put a to-do list and a not to-do list, very important, as important, if not more. Your not to-do list, you don't binge on Netflix, for example. And you journal this in the morning, and when you review in the evening, and you tick off what it is that you actually didn't do and what you actually did, the sense of fulfillment will empower you to do better tomorrow. And the third one is journaling goodness. Goodness and gratitude are different. Goodness is, what are the good things that happened to you yesterday? So if we're looking at yesterday, there could be little things. Your kids cooked a meal for you, even if it was botched up, but you actually sat down after a long day and you found it ready. Or someone cleared the plates, or your husband picked a bunch of hand-picked flowers, or said something nice, or someone of your staff actually came and said thank you. The good things that happened yesterday, that's why you write it in the morning, are going to be the things that will possibly happen today as well. You will actually contribute to the good of someone else, which is amazing, really. And there is a science, and this is not me making it up from the top of my head, which says that when you trigger goodness, you actually stimulate creativity. When you stimulate creativity, your coping system expands to new horizons. So when you journal the good things that happened to you yesterday and you review them in the evening, and these things that happened actually will happen again because there is a flow in life, your coping mechanism is going to be a lot better. So if I am looking back at the 5 salient points that we have reviewed today, I will just go over them very quickly, because starting from woe, black, darkness, sadness, overwhelm, how am I going to cope, impossible to cope, you go into these stuff. Number 1, you anticipate drama so that you can deal better when it actually happens. You delay, number 2, your responses, and you make sure that your response is proportionate to the roadblock that you're actually facing. So keep it in perspective, right? Number 3, allow for sadness. Allow for sadness, yes. Embrace your sadness, and once you've embraced it, socialize it. Talk to someone else. Talk to someone who's already been there, and you will find that the sky is a lot bluer. Number 4, a healthy response to the problem will give you back your health, physical or mental. Okay? And the 5th one is your 3 Gs: journal and review, your gratitude, your goals, and your goodness. And hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed this, please push the like button. I would really appreciate that. And subscribe to this channel if you want more. And if you're a lady boss on fire, join my private Facebook group. I'll leave a link below. And this is where we do weekly mentoring and we support each other, and we also do a load of possibilities, business, and whichever way you look at it, there's a lot happening there, and you feel you are part of a real great support system. If you're a guy, subscribe, leave a comment, I'll get back, this is for sure. And I hope I will see you next week, where I am going to be showing up with something very new. Thank you.